Chapter 14. Part 1 of the Kenyan Constitution deals with the principles of national security and the establishment of national security organs. Here's a summary of the key points. 238. Principles of National Security. Article 238. National security refers to the protection of Kenya's territorial integrity, sovereignty, people, rights, freedoms, property, peace, stability, prosperity, and other national interests from both internal and external threats. The principles guiding national security are as follows. 1. National security is subject to the authority of the Constitution and Parliament. 2. National security must be pursued in compliance with the law, respect for the rule of law, democracy, human rights, and fundamental freedoms. 3. National security organs must respect the diverse cultures of the communities within Kenya in the performance of their functions. 4. Recruitment by the national security organs should reflect the diversity of the Kenyan people in equitable proportions. 239. National security organs. Article 239. The national security organs in Kenya consist of the following. 1. Kenya Defence Forces, responsible for defense and protection of the nation's territorial integrity. 2. National Intelligence Service, responsible for gathering intelligence and safeguarding national security interests. 3. National Police Service, responsible for maintaining law and order and enforcing the law within the country. The primary objective of these organs is to promote and guarantee national security in accordance with the principles mentioned in Article Section 2. The national security organs and their members must not act in a partisan manner or further the interests of any political party or cause. They must remain impartial and serve the legitimate interests of the nation. 240. Establishment of the National Security Council. Article 240. The National Security Council is established to oversee and coordinate national security matters. The council is composed of various key government officials, including the President, Deputy President, relevant cabinet secretaries, the Chief of Kenyan Defence Forces, the Director General of the National Intelligence Service, and the Inspector General of the National Police Service. The Council is responsible for integrating domestic, foreign, and military policies related to national security to ensure effective cooperation and functioning of the national security organs. It assesses and appraises the objectives, commitments, and risks to Kenya's security. The Council reports annually to Parliament on the state of Kenya's security. The Council has the authority, with the approval of Parliament, to deploy national forces outside Kenya for peace support operations or approve the deployment of foreign forces in Kenya. This part of the Constitution provides a framework for ensuring national security while upholding democratic principles, human rights, and the rule of law. It establishes key institutions responsible for safeguarding the country's security interests and outlines their roles and responsibilities. Chapter 14. Part 2 of the Kenyan Constitution focuses on the Kenya Defence Forces and the establishment of the Defence Council. Here's a summary of the key points. 241. Section A. Establishment of Kenya Defence Forces. Article 241. The Kenya Defence Forces are established to safeguard the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the Republic of Kenya. The KF is composed of three main branches. 1. Kenya Army, responsible for ground operations and defense on land. 2. Kenya Air Force, responsible for aerial defense and aviation operations. 3. Kenya Navy, responsible for maritime defense and naval operations. The primary roles of the defense forces are to defend and protect the nation's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Additionally, they are authorized to assist and cooperate with other authorities in times of emergency or disaster. Any deployment of the defense forces in such situations must be reported to the National Assembly. The defense forces can be deployed to restore peace in areas of Kenya affected by unrest or instability, but such deployment requires the approval of the National Assembly. The composition of the command of the defense forces is required to reflect the regional and ethnic diversity of the Kenyan population. 241 Section B. Establishment of Defense Council. Article 241. The Defense Council is established to oversee and coordinate policy, control, and supervision of the Kenya Defense Forces. The Council is composed of key officials, including the Cabinet Secretary responsible for defense, who serves as the chairperson, the Chief of the Kenya Defense Forces, the commanders of the three branches of the Defense Forces, and the Principal Secretary in charge of the ministry responsible for defense. The Defense Council's responsibilities include setting overall policy, control, and supervision of the defense forces. The Council may also perform other functions as prescribed by national legislation. This part of the Constitution establishes the Kenya Defense Forces as the country's primary security forces responsible for protecting national sovereignty and territorial integrity. It emphasizes the importance of diversity in the composition of the command structure and creates the Defense Council to provide policy guidance and oversight to the defense forces. Chapter 14. Part 3 of the Kenyan Constitution focuses on the National Intelligence Service. Here's a summary of the key points. 242. Establishment of the National Intelligence Service. Article 242. The National Intelligence Service (NIS) is established to serve as the country's intelligence agency. The primary responsibilities of the NIS are security intelligence and counterintelligence activities, aimed at enhancing national security and protecting Kenya's interests. As per the provisions of the Constitution, besides its core functions, the NIS may also perform any other functions prescribed by national legislation. The establishment of the National Intelligence Service underscores the importance of intelligence gathering and counterintelligence measures to ensure national security. As an intelligence agency, the NIS plays a crucial role in safeguarding the country's interests and protecting its citizens from internal and external threats. The agency operates under the framework set forth by the Constitution and may have additional functions as determined by national legislation. Summary of Chapter 14 National Security Part 4. Chapter 14. Part 4 of the Kenyan Constitution focuses on the National Police Service. Here's a summary of the key points. 243. Establishment of the National Police Service. Article 243. The National Police Service is established and consists of two branches, the Kenya Police Service and the Administration Police Service. The National Police Service is a national service that functions throughout Kenya. Parliament is mandated to enact legislation to give full effect to the provisions of this article. 244. Objects and functions of the National Police Service. Article 244. The National Police Service has several objectives and functions, including upholding high standards of professionalism and discipline among its members, preventing corruption, respecting constitutional standards of human rights and fundamental freedoms, providing training to its staff with respect to competence and integrity, and fostering relationships with the broader society. 245. Command of the National Police Service. Article 245. The Office of the Inspector General of the National Police Service is established, and the Inspector General is appointed by the President with the approval of Parliament. The Inspector General exercises independent command over the National Police Service and is appointed for a single 4-year term, not eligible for reappointment. The Inspector General can be removed from office by the President on specific grounds listed in the article. The National Police Service is headed by the Inspector General, and both the Kenya Police Service and the Administration Police Service have Deputy Inspector Generals. 246. National Police Service Commission. Article 246. The National Police Service Commission is established and consists of various members, including those appointed by the President and the Inspector General of the National Police Service. The Commission is responsible for recruiting and appointing officers within the National Police Service, exercising disciplinary control, and performing other functions prescribed by national legislation. The composition of the National Police Service should reflect the regional and ethnic diversity of Kenya. 247. Other police services. Article 247. Parliament has the authority to enact legislation to establish other police services under the supervision of the National Police Service and under the command of the Inspector General of the service.